because the very principle by which you would say, I do not accept the Vatican II Church, is that I stand on the definitiveness and the clear understanding of the dogmas, and that Vatican II represent a rupture with those. Okay,
Right.
and so that proves that your rule of faith then is the dogmatic teaching, not what the approved theologians are saying about the dogmatic teaching. And so, so that's the point. They contradict themselves when they try to revert back to the dogmas in denouncing the Vatican II Church, but then they revert back to the approved theologians as the definitive word when they're trying to say baptism of desire is binding.
Right.
So,
well, and I read Father Chicago's work, and, I don't know everything that theology teaches. I don't know all the principles, and, it makes you seem like, okay, this is something that I guess I'm bound to believe because the church tells me that I'm bound to believe this stuff.
Where does the church tell you that?
Just from reading that article.
Theologians.
Right.
Yeah, and theologians. St. Gregory Nazianzen is the only saint, as far as I know, in the history of the church who is surnamed the theologian.
Okay.
And he rejected baptism of desire explicitly.
Right.
So isn't that ironic? I
have one more question in a minute
right.
while we're on this subject. And this is something
Can you hold on 1 sec?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Where were we? Talking about
St. Gregory.
Theological principles that Father Chicago was taught. Is my question. Is there a certain... How do you know when a theologian is approved by the church or not approved by the church, or is there no such distinction?
Well, basically, he would have permission to write his books and his works, and they would receive the imprimatur if he was religious by his religious superior or the ordinary. And so, you see imprimaturs in the front of books, and they would be approved.
Right.
And so that's how a theologian would get the permission to write and publish something, and it would apparently have the approval of the quote hierarchy. But those are not. That's not infallible.
Right.
It's just the local areas of the church. The church's infallibility operates on the universal level.
Right.
Okay, and so the church is infallible in its universal teaching, in its extraordinary teaching, which is binding on the universal church, and in its ordinary and universal teaching. What is going on in certain sectors of the church, okay, even though it's approved by certain people, is not infallible. If that were true, the church would have defected 1,000 times.
When you say sectors, is that in space and time, or is that geographical space and time, or is that just in geographical space? I guess, how do you define that?
Well, yeah, certainly both, because the theologians were basically unanimous from the time of Augustine for the next 600, 700 years that unbaptized infants go to the fires of hell. Okay, that was the unanimous teaching of the theologians. Okay,
right.
and I even quote this in my book, and I can find the quote. And then during the time of St. Thomas and others, it started to change. Okay, and then basically started to be rejected. That they suffer privation. They're in a part of hell where there is no fire, and they're excluded from God from all eternity. That's definite. They don't go to heaven, but they're not. They don't receive the pain of sense. They don't receive the pain of eternal fire. And so that's an example of the common opinion of the theologians, the common opinion or dominant opinion in one period for 600, 700 years that was changed. Okay? So wait a second. What's going on? The geocentrism issue, again, is so key to this because according to St. Robert Bellarmine, the theologians are unanimous that in favor of and the scholastic doctors and basically the theologians are unanimous in favor of the geocentric view of the universe, that the earth is the center of the universe. Well, Pope Benedict XV said that the earth might not be the center of the universe.
Right.
So, problem. Okay, right. So and it wasn't just him. By the 1700s, the theologians in Rome said, no, it's open to the other position, heliocentrism, and now it's believed that the universe is much broader, and so it wouldn't be the Earth or the Sun that's strictly the center. So So that's the point. So much for that. And see, like, that's why none of these baptisms are. That's why we're doing this. And you seemed like you came into this conversation obviously convinced of baptisms are. You don't seem so convinced now. But that's why you want to be able to get these people on the spot, because we point these things out, and for those of goodwill, it's clear. But these people never address any of this stuff because they can't.
Can I ask you another question in a minute? I'm just looking at Father Chikata's baptism and desire work, and he quotes Pius IX and Tuas Libenter, Denzinger 1683 and Denzinger in 1684, and he's applying his principles on what we're to believe, the general principles, and obviously after reading these two paragraphs in Denzinger, he says that we must therefore adhere to the following: doctrinal decisions of Vatican congregations, e.g. the Holy Office, and forms of doctrines held as theological truths and conclusions, so certain that opposition merits some theological censure short of heresy. I guess that is where I got that, yeah, it could be plausible.
Well, see, that's why there's a whole section on his false argument in my book, section 19, where his whole premise is false. He asserts that Pius IX and Tuas Libenter says that you are bound by the constant or common opinion of theologians. He asserts that Pius IX teaches in Tuas Libenter that the common opinion of theologians is binding. That's not true. Pius IX says that you're bound to believe not only things that are extraordinarily taught, but things that are taught by universally and constantly by theologians, and by the ordinary teaching power throughout the entire church. That's not baptisms are. And so the congregations, again, geocentrism blows it away. The Holy Office spoke in favor of geocentrism definitively in 1660 and 1633. Okay? Well, and also the Congregation of the Index, which is another congregation charged with the Index Forbidden Books.
Right.
It reversed itself.
So if his principle is true, then we'd all be believing in geocentrism.
He would have to say that geocentrism is dogmatic, and that Pope Benedict XV was heretical in heresy, or teaching heresy in good faith in 1915. But it's even more devastating for him because, see, like, we point out that it's possible for a pope to make a statement which is strictly speaking heretical in his fallible capacity without being a heretic. He couldn't do it in his magisterial capacity. Okay, on a finer point of theology, we point that out. But these guys don't believe that's possible because they believe that the congregations in Rome and the theologians in Rome always necessarily represent the teaching of the church. Well, you not only have the Holy Office, you have the Holy Office feeling one way on geocentrism and the Congregation of the Index definitively. And then you have the people of the Holy Office and the Congregation of the Index in the 1700s, late 1700s, on the other side, saying it's okay to not believe in geocentrism. Right. They allowed books to be published. So what's the deal? How is that? How can that be definitive? It can't be.
So where, I guess, in your history of Brother Peter Diamond being Catholic, where did you guys come up with? Were you just reading in a catechism or something somewhere and seeing the theory of baptism and desire and look at it and say this doesn't look right, and then go from there? Or
well, when I saw the bull Cantate Domino, it was clear to me.
Oh, and
so. And other things, the canons of the Council of Trent on baptism. To me, it's very simple. It's very obvious.
The way you just explained it to me now, I think I'd have to lie to myself to adhere to that position.
Which position?
That baptism of desire for a catechumen is tenable.
Well, it's not reconcilable with the infallible teaching. And so the question has to be asked, why isn't God allowed it to be taught in any dogmatic definition? Like, why isn't it clearly in Trent says, we all know that there are I think 14 canons on baptism in the Council of Trent, canons on baptism. Why isn't there a canon that says, if anyone shall say that there are not three forms of baptism, or that catechumens cannot be saved without the sacrament of baptism. Let him be anathema. Why isn't it taught anywhere on Trent, which has, or Florence, which has a decree on the sacraments? Why isn't it taught in any of these places? It's nowhere, because God didn't allow it to be taught, but He allowed certain things to be worded in a way which do not teach baptisms are, but which heretics would use, and people would misunderstand.
One example of that, I was listening to one of your programs, and you were talking about Cantate Domino, how it quotes St. Thomas, and you said if it would have went any further, it would have taught baptism and desire, but it did not. That's pretty strong, and that's why, I've been touchy about my belief on this, whether I should or should not believe it, and, I guess that's why I pinpointed it down to, okay, possibly a catechumen, it's plausible, and I left it at that. But, after our conversation today, I can't sit here and honestly defend